Hi, everybody. Hey, you made it to week 13. You just finished another exam week, right? So, hey, you're kind of become an expert at some of this stuff here, right? This whole last month was all about networking, the internet, the plumbing, all that kind of stuff, and all the technical stuff about Microsoft Excel, right? About what is a spreadsheet. So it's kind of a little mathematical process, whatever. Okay. Now we're getting into we're into week 13. Okay. So in week 13, let me go ahead and share my screen. Again, another busy week. We have in week 13, we have 2 chapters again, just like remember week 9, we had 2 and 2 like this, right? And part of this because I'm trying to not give you homework over that Easter break. So I've had to kind of lump things together a little bit. But you have chapters 10 and 11. So 2 chapters to learn about, the 2 audio PowerPoints, the 2 study guides, and then in my IT lab, chapters 1 and 2 in Access. So very much like how we started off in week 9, where we had 2 and 2, okay, kind of thing. So what are some of the stuff in chapters 10 and 11? So let me go ahead and share my screen over here again, which is going to be this one here. And let me bring it this side. There you go. So, 10 and 11. Sorry, not that one. Here we go. Chapter 10, right? So when I look at chapter 10, okay, it has to do with programming. What is programming? And again, we've heard that term before, programming, but programming is what we do to create programs like my IT Lab, apps like you would find on the web or that you use in your cell phone, okay? You're going to learn about what's called the system development lifecycle. What the process is develop a system. Maybe it's like an accounting system. And so you need to know how to program. When we actually get into the programming part of it, you'd actually say, oh, this is what a programmer has to learn. Just like learning a language, that's what they call them languages. You have to learn the vocabulary, how to create programs and how to write programs. This class is not to make you a programmer, but to introduce you to what programming is. And so you're kind of aware of some of the content and the structures about the various how to define a programming, the steps are involved in the program development life cycles, what a programmer uses for constructs and stuff to be able to make decisions, whatever, how the flow of a program is going to work, okay? And then some of the different types of languages and the roles that those languages play. Is it a web programming? Is it a more of a business or accounting type programming language, whatever? Is it a more of an analytical or one for scientific applications if you're in the STEM field, right? Okay, so there's different languages that are created for different uses. Okay, at the end of the semester, right before the finals, we're going to have a couple little short videos on just an older program called Visual Basic, so you get an idea of what was called object-oriented programming. But for now, you're just learning and reading about the different types of languages here. There's no programming assignments other than to read and work on your study guide questions, okay? So, why do we do testing for programming, right? And what are the, factors behind a popularity of a particular program? What is it used for? Why are people saying, oh my God, that's a great program, okay? So that's chapter 10, okay? Then we get into chapter 11, which is really what this whole month is about here in April, which is databases. So what is a database and what are the different types of flat databases, a relational database, an object-oriented database, a multi-dimensional, okay? Point being is that I thought there was just one thing called databases, and like now there's different flavors of databases. Like, yeah, it really is. You're going to learn about what kind of database you're working with is dependent upon what is it you're trying to accomplish. Hell, I just thought that a database was like my contact list in my cell phone. Well, technically it is, okay? You and I spend more time with databases than anything else. We just don't think about it. What? Yeah. Don't you buy anything from Amazon, maybe? You had to log in with the username and password. You had to go through and shop around and search for things. Then you put things in shopping carts and stuff. You're manipulating a database. You're telling them, it's me. I'm looking for this. I found what I want. I want to put it over here, and then I want to pay for it. Okay. You use databases when you log into the school here and you're enrolling in classes, or you're using Canvas or self-service, you're interacting with databases, okay? When you listen to music or stream services on your Disney account or on your Netflix account, you're using their database, okay? Yeah, we also do a lot of word processing, okay? But we do a whole lot, everybody, a lot of database work. We just don't think about it as database, okay? So, how databases work, again, the different types of them, especially relational databases, my gosh. And then what about data warehousing? Who's keeping track of the database? Are you being tracked? Sure. You buy something at Target, they know what you purchased. Walmart knows what you purchased, Amazon, okay? And they remember, they say, Mark likes, New Balance tennis shoes. So I'm going to make sure that anytime I get some ads, I'm going to try to see if Mark will buy a new version of the New Balance tennis shoes. So again, there's companies who will say, I want to buy into your database. I want to mine it. I think there might be some good future customers here. Okay. So I want to make sure that I have access to your database. So they buy into the data warehouse for the purposes of mining it to find information about you and me specifically, so they can target advertising to us. Okay, data mining. Okay, and again, how businesses work with that, these types of information systems to be able to track and then interact with that. Okay, so that was it for chapters 10 and 11. So let me come back here, close that part out here, and okay, I stopped my sharing. Okay, fine. Again, let's reshare one more time. Sorry about that. So chapter 13, you have the 2 chapters. You have the audio PowerPoints that you should watch as an overview. Go find the answers to the study guide questions. Again, you guys are becoming experts at this process, okay? And then you have the 2 chapters in training assessments on database. You're going to find the first chapter in the assessments and training it's really easy, because you're just simply kind of playing with it a little bit, okay? Again, most of our work with databases, we feed them. Somebody set up the contact list in our cell phone, and we're feeding in first name, last name, city, state, telephone, pictures, all sorts of stuff. But eventually you're going to learn how to create your own database, and then how to create queries and reports and how to extract information out of the database. But right now it starts you off pretty easy. Okay. Again, if you start to get struggling, remember way back in towards the end here in week 16, our exam week, we have the hands-on prep access test video. There's a lot of answers on how to do stuff in the individual chapter homework that's incorporated here. So you have an idea, oh, I need to make sure I need to know that for the access test later on. So sometimes there's been stuff in that video that will help you with your chapter homework along the way. So that was week 13. So I hope that gives you kind of a better idea. Let me stop my share. And you guys have a great one.